So welcome this evening to our given panel in honor of International Women's Day. We are blessed to be joined by our friends and guests, Barbara Edmondson, Head of School of Visitation and Mother of Four. Lourdes Arguello, stylist, lifestyle consultant, decorating and adding beauty to all that she sees. Maruška Healy, a mother of 7. Krista Keil works at the Youth Leadership Foundation as Director of Character and Mentorship. And Sandra Bell, mother of 3 and grandmother of 3. As we gather today on International Women's Day, I thought it fitting to begin with the words of someone who I hope is a friend to all of us. Her name is Edith Stein. A convert, a philosopher, a teacher, a mystic, and a martyr. And this woman offers this advice to us. She says, "Were each woman an image of the Mother of God, an apostle of the divine heart, then each woman would fulfill her feminine vocation no matter what conditions she lived in and what worldly activity absorbed her life." Such simplicity, such a simple calling, and from a woman who ascended to the heights of academia, entered the Carmel cloister, and ended her earthly life in the gas chambers of Auschwitz. Highly successful by all modern standards of education, the last earthly days of this brilliant woman's life are recorded by the women that she met in the camps along the way to her final destination. Their comments point to a woman that was full of simplicity and a deep faith. And they say, "She was the kind woman in brown," the brown Carmel habit. "She walked through our camps and comforted the crying mothers and children. She helped those overcome by despair." So great. Another superwoman, another woman who has it all, another woman I can't attain the heights of her sanctity. Well, sure, insofar as her soul was freed by grace to participate fully in the divine life, yes, a woman who had and has it all right now. But for her, having it all was called union with Christ. And she defines this life of union as the only liberating path, a path offered to all and shown wonderfully to us with but one glance at the Mother of God. One glance at the Mother of God. Though her younger self was full of complications and inner turmoil, St. Edith Stein, later known as Sister Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, grew into God's simplicity through both her mystical life of prayer and through her assiduous study of St. Thomas Aquinas. Keenly aware of the pitfalls of women's gifts when turned in on self, she reminds us that the lifelong journey of conversion is His work, His project. And in harmony with the teachings of St. Thomas, she tells us, "Only the power of grace can uproot and form anew fallen nature." She continues, "God's graced formation happens from within, never from without. So having it all is the mighty work of the grace of the one who is all in all." Like Edith Stein, we as women are invited to see our daily actions and our very life as not our own small project of personal greatness, but as a dynamic response to the bigger invitation to union with Christ. This is a holy, mysterious, and sacred project, a project of grace and freedom, action and participation. In fact, sanctification and divinization are part of a dynamic journey that God initiates, sustains, and brings to completion. For Edith Stein, it is Mary who, in her simplicity, stands at the center of this mysterious rapport between grace and freedom. So tonight, we turn to 5 examples of women who, like Edith Stein, have indeed glanced at Mary, the Mother of God, and whose good, objective work in the service of the Lord, their families, and the church encompasses many spheres. Just as unity and diversity are found in our triune God, so do these women, with their various backgrounds and apostolates, share a unifying point in their daily lives. It is a unifying point that Edith Stein calls the hidden Eucharistic life of each soul who freely and openly receives him. This, she says, and this only, is what gives us a heart open to the needs of our brothers and sisters. It is the Eucharistic life, then, which simplifies our outlook and forms us into women free of pretenses. This is the simplicity and the gift of woman that our world needs today. And so now we turn to our panelists, and we invite them each to share a brief introduction.
Thank you, Sister Amelia. As Sister Amelia said, I am Barbara Edmondson, and I have really had the gift, the blessing to live and to work in the church for more than 30 years. I've done that as a Catholic educator. I began my professional career in higher education, and then decided that I needed to find a new path that allowed me to have both a professional life and a family life. And so my first school leadership position came when my oldest daughter was a toddler, and then basically I raised 4 children. They came with me to school, and we lived life together in their Catholic elementary schools, not quite onto their high school, although sometimes I would tell them I was following them. I would say, oh, I have a new position. I would name their high school where they were going. But it did come to fruition. I'll tell that story a little bit later. I have found that for me professionally, once I made that decision to be a Catholic educator, to work for the church, that I've never really had a planned professional trajectory at that point. I have listened, I have followed, and believe that the Lord has opened opportunities to me that have helped me to grow over time, and hopefully that have allowed me to help others to grow, and I've been able to support them. And so I think a great example of that is a funny story that I often tell when I'm talking to teachers and school administrators, that they need to listen and they need to find their way and see where the Lord is directing them. But I was a school principal, and during that time, the superintendent of schools in the Archdiocese of Baltimore had resigned his position. And obviously the position was open, and it was not one that I was applying to. And I received a call one day, and the call was from the Archdiocese of Baltimore. And the person on the call said, Monsignor, I'll leave him unnamed, Monsignor Jones, and that wasn't his name, would like to talk to you about school administration. And I remember saying to my assistant principal, I think they're going to talk to me about the superintendent's position. But I was in disbelief because obviously they knew, and I was certainly going to tell them that I was the mother of 4 children who lived in my home. And so I went to the Archdiocese like I should, and I had that first conversation. Within minutes of being there, the Monsignor said to me, we would like you to be the superintendent of schools. And I said to him, you know I have 4 children? He said, yes. And I said, you know that all those children live in my home? They are attending school at this time? He said, yes. And I said, and you're asking me to do this? Yes, we think that this is the right path for us. And so I said, well, I have a lot to think about, and I certainly, I thank you, and I will take some time to discern this. And about a week later, and I was supposed to have at least 2 weeks to think about this, I received a call from the Vicar General. And he said, well, we really think you should come and be the superintendent of schools. And I said to him as well, you do know that I have 4 children. They all live in my home. They all need me to be around, and yes, we know, but we'd like you to come be the superintendent. And again, I said I need a little time to discern this. So on my travels, it was the summertime, and on my travels back from the beach, I received this phone call from an unknown number. When I picked up the phone, and this is the Archbishop. And I said, oh my goodness, Archbishop. And the call dropped, and he called me back, and he said, we would like you to be the superintendent. And I said, well, thank you, Archbishop. And it's certainly something that I'm discerning. When I hung up the phone, I said, if an international call comes in, do not pick it up. It's Rowan calling me. Someone wants me to be the superintendent. But you know what? It was the Lord who wanted me to be the superintendent. It was a wonderful opportunity. Gave me the opportunity to meet a very good friend who has brought me here this evening to the Given Institute. But I really want to go with that theme of opening your heart, opening your mind to what those possibilities are for you. I know, especially I see so many young women in the audience, and many times because I guess I'm imagining, and I'm sure I'm right, so many doers here in the audience. So we sort of have this vision of where we'll be at this age and what it will be like. And what I would say to you, and sort of my life as a leader has been to listen, and opportunities and doors will open to you. And currently I serve as the head of school at Georgetown Visitation. And it sort of is a backward move, if you would. So as a superintendent, then I had a national position and came to Georgetown Visitation. And I thought, what a wonderful place to be with 500 young women each day. And it is a wonderful place to be there. But what I came to know is that maybe it was that Georgetown Visitation needed me to be the head of school at that time. I kind of throw the plug in that it was like COVID was on the way. I didn't know that, but the Lord knew that. But that's not really why I believe that I'm at Georgetown Visitation. I believe that I am there, yes, because I can help with many others to lead this school, but it's because I needed to be there spiritually. It gave me the opportunity to be with the Sisters of Visitation, to be personally mentored by the superior of the monastery, who is one of the most wonderful, gentle, loving women that I have ever met in my lifetime. But what I realized that my work called me to a place that I needed at a later point of life is, how do I continue to build my spirituality? How do I grow closer to the Lord? How do I come to know Mary differently than I've known her my whole life? So I feel blessed to serve in that role for what I can do, hopefully, to better that school and to better the life of the young women there. But I truly feel blessed because it has given me an opportunity to really grow in my own spirituality each and every day by the example of the women who have served for so many years in their role as sisters there at Visitation. So I will stop because I know there's 4 other wonderful women on this panel who have so much to share.
Thank you. My name is Lourdes Arguello, and maybe some of you read my bio, or not, it's not necessary, but 23 years ago, I was probably about most of your ages and feeling like that I had all these dreams and full of life and just thinking that, I was gonna take over the world. So I was in Honduras, not here in the United States, and imagine myself like riding in this red convertible and just really truly thinking that I had the power of my life and my destination. And I have to say that I think that also I was in a very good place, and I think most of you, by being here or zooming in, you are, because you had identified yourself with the Catholic faith, which is, it's so beautiful, and it gives us so much strength and just support in our daily lives. So I was dreaming in my red convertible, but I did have sort of like my Catholic faith very much ingrained. And so I want you to envision yourself, and I want you to jump in the backseat of my red convertible, and we're gonna start cruising along. And I want you to imagine that we get to a bus stop and Jesus is like waving at you. So of course I'm like, am I dreaming? Am I pinching myself? And so I literally jump out of the convertible, because convertibles, you're supposed to not use the doors and be like super energetic. And so I go and I hug Jesus. I'm like, how are you? Tell me what's going on. So let's imagine another scenario. Again, we're cruising, and again, I see Jesus, and he's still waving at me. And then I jump out of the convertible, and I'm super happy to see him. Why don't you come with me? Come with my life, because I'm gonna take over the world, and I want you to be by my side. And I open the door for him. He's not gonna jump. He could jump, but I take away my purse and my lunch, trash, and he's there, and I'm super happy. Then the final scenario is that, again, I'm driving and then I see Jesus and he's waving, but then I'm like, wait a second. I see him and I'm like, why don't I want to give you the keys of my convertible and I want you to drive it. And I actually want to go where you're going because I know that wherever you're going is where I want to go because I know that whatever I do, if like whatever you do, I'll be happy. So let's go back to the point where I was in 23. I was actually in my like 19 or 18, and I have to say that I had been praying all my life, which again, luckily for our Catholic faith, about to really discover kind of what path was I to take, like the marriage route or a vocation. And I kind of saw that I was meant to call to be married, and so I'm here in my convertible, and then I think again I'm gonna take over the world with Jesus, and all of a sudden I meet the man of my dreams. I did not intend that. We get married. I'm 20 and we decide to get married. Again, I'm like, okay, I wanted to work. I wanted to do, to travel. And then, but okay, I'm going to do it with him. We're going to take the world together. We're going to travel together. We can sleep in the same room because we didn't cohabitate. So that's totally allowed. And I'm pregnant. And so, not that that's anything wrong with that, but I'm sick. And so, I mean, good sick because I'm pregnant, but I'm like in bed for like 9 months and I'm like, okay, so we're not taking over the world. I'm not working. I haven't been out there yet. I'm not traveling, but it's okay. So it's not to be sort of like depressed about it, but that my life kind of ended in that moment. But it's just that I thought, okay, so the name of the game is going to be sort of like to pivot, to think about a different way of doing it. I mean, remember, who do I have? I have my driver who's like been leading me and telling me that everything's gonna be okay. And I bet he's taking me to a journey that I didn't quite see, but maybe it'll come, maybe it'll come. And again, so, and I have like, and we go through a bumpy road. I mean, I'm asked to move internationally. I leave my family, I leave my friends. I have very scary moments, but I know that I will recover. And again, I'm pregnant again, so I'm alone now. I have like my second kid, and again, I'm thinking, okay, this is gonna pass. Then finally, I'm like, okay, I can work at this school and I can be professional, which I've been dreaming for to have a career. And then my sons can come to my school, and then I'm pregnant again, and then I'm sick again, which is fine. I'm actually very happy. I've been blessed with 4 beautiful children, and it's total. I mean, I'm feeling very fulfilled, and I can tell you like a lot of adventures that I had, sort of as you know, as like having situations where it got sticky or whatnot, but I feel that what kept me obviously kind of like in control was again thinking who was my driver, and like whatever I entitled myself, or wherever I ended up, I was fine. And it was sort of about rediscovering and trying to think outside the box and saying, okay, this is what I have right now, and how can I do it? Uh, how can I decorate the world or be very fashionable? Having kids at home or going through like obstacles of sicknesses, whatnot, and just really discovering that you can find your place by being very, I feel like, docile to our Lord. And I think one of the things that was very, very important and true to my heart is kind of finding that time to do prayer, and not only vocal prayer, but like silent prayer, and to really listen. Because as hopefully you can get by the color red, I'm very passionate and loud, and I like fashion and music and noise. But I found myself thinking how important that was to be quiet and to actually not miss what my driver was telling me because the music was probably too loud on the convertible, and just trying to follow his path and sort of like have that peace. And in the end, today, I'm feeling completely fulfilled. I feel that I've done everything professional and socially and personal that maybe I was even short in my dreams and I didn't even envision the much that I've accomplished and lived and feel completely fulfilled. Like, I'm like, let's celebrate womanhood. Let's celebrate this month because we're we're amazing creatures. I mean, we have so much to give. And by the way, the reason why I asked you like to sit on my convertible is because I want to take all of you on my convertible to heaven, which is actually my ending stop. That's where we're going. And it's a convertible, so all of you can fit. Because I can stack you like up and down. Because that's another path that we have in life. You know, it's not only for my dreams and where I want to be successful, but it's who am I taking with me? You know, that's what it's our giving ourselves completely is like as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as a fashion person, as a designer, whatever. So like you find and you listen and you let your driver take you, you will find that complete happiness. So just be patient and let him drive and you will get there. I'm not there yet, but you're coming with me and we're on our way.
It's good to be here with all of you. So as Sister said, I'm a mother of 7 children. And as I was preparing for this meeting tonight, my children asked me what I would be talking about. So after I paused for a while, I said, well, actually about you. To which my oldest son, who's 16 today, said, wouldn't that be boring? And my younger children said, that would be a great talk. So you have the two different answers. But my children, my husband are what has been given to me. So of course, that's what I will be talking about. It's my life. I don't know if it will be great, but hopefully it won't be too boring for you. I was going to start with a beautiful passage from the scripture. It's from the letter to the Hebrews. And the passage says, encourage one another daily while it is still today. So what I would like to share with you tonight is an encouragement. We have been taught by our culture that there is a divide between private and public life. We have been taught that a woman, when she gets married and has children and is present in her home, that she's really doing something private. She is doing a little private thing. But I would like to invite you to embrace a different mindset today, to look at home as really the meeting place of people and culture. It's a place, a natural place for a woman to engage with and to transform the world. And of course, many of these things that she'll be doing will be hidden. Mary lived a hidden life. It's okay, it's good. But then in a most profound way, it actually will be engaging with the world in a very radical, profound way. So by ministering to their husbands and children, women in their homes are really ministering to the world. So don't forget that. Keep that in your mind when you're searching your vocation, asking God to show you where He's calling you to be. Really, home, when you think about it, it's a place where children learn how to love, how to grow, where they are educated, they learn how to wonder. We learn with them, alongside of them. It's a place where we minister to the world by every meal we share together, by every feast we celebrate, every memory we share together with our children. So it's a really beautiful way of thinking about home, because we are radically engaging with the world that's bigger than our family. One thing I've experienced throughout my life over and over again, and I'm sure you all agree, is that God always gives us more than we ask Him for. There's this abundance and this richness, this amazing generosity on part of God. So when a man and woman exchange their vows in marriage and say yes to one another, and also to openness to life, in the physical sense, children, God actually does something more. He takes this physical openness to life and He changes it into spiritual openness as well. There's this abundance of life again. He can transform it. And this openness, I think, should be and can be really openness to a wider community, to the world. It doesn't happen at once. It takes time, lifetime. It's kind of slowly unfolding throughout our lives. And again, that's good. We are used to getting things instantly in today's culture. Just, we want it, it's here. But in life, it takes time. And in a family, in a home, that's where you learn this. And it's really beautiful to witness that over and over again. So if you say yes to this, yes to physical openness to life, yes to this greater openness to life, then your marriage really does not end with you. It does not end with you and your spouse. It does not end with you and your children. It goes even further. There's a beautiful Old Testament image about your tent being enlarged, and it's kind of like that, like your tent is just getting bigger and bigger. So this abundance of life can take many different forms. And in my own family, my own life, I've been married for almost 20 years, have 7 children. So there's obviously a physical abundance of life. But God has done so much more. Again, He has given so much more. I had this deep desire in my heart, in addition to having all these children and all this richness of life. We also homeschool, so that adds another, richness on a daily level. But I had this desire to really open my home to other people, to welcome others into our home. And God sent the people. He sends them all the time in many different ways, ways that I don't even imagine, from young children who come to our home for art lessons or for Good Shepherd catechesis. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Or high school students who come to our home for ballroom dancing and singing around fire and listening to lectures. We have different speakers come to our home. Or college students, college women who come and paint Easter eggs with us or bake Christmas cookies. There's this richness of life that is there because we open the door. So when you open the door, God will send you the people. It's really amazing to see and witness that every day. So in fact, you're all invited to tea anytime you come. Maybe not all at once. I don't have that convertible thing, but you can all come to tea. My final thought is something that I read. I don't remember where, or maybe heard it sometime long ago. Somebody said that mother's work doesn't have a lasting character. It's so pointless because she makes a meal and it's eaten within 5 minutes. She cleans the house and it's dirty with dirt people bring in from the outside 5 minutes later. But I would like to contrast it with something different. There's a beautiful passage in the Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. In the final chapter, Alyosha, one of the brothers, talks about how one single memory of something beautiful in life can serve one day for our salvation. How one single memory from our parental home can really be a glimpse of something greater, of God, of heaven, of something everlasting. So there really is an eternal value to motherhood, to being at home. So home is a place where beautiful traditions and memories can be formed. It is a natural place for a woman to engage with and transform the world, but it's even more. It's actually a place of preparation for heaven. Thank you.
I'm ready to give a round of applause for all these amazing women up here. Truly a blessing to be here with you this evening. Thanks for being here to celebrate the gift of femininity. So this evening, I want to talk a little bit about the integration of character, interior healing, and leadership. And I arrived at this through my pursuit of a master's in counseling and working for a local leadership organization and kind of a mix of my personal passions. So my life experience has taught me that if you really want to integrate faith into your life, your interior state matters. And what you reflect exteriorly is a reflection of the interior. And this is where character and the healing take place. So I've found that personally and professionally, these topics are often avoided. These topics of how do you grow in character? How do you actually go through a healing process? And they're avoided because they're hard, right? It's hard to be vulnerable, especially in the workplace, to have deep conversations, intimate conversations with friends that arouse the nitty gritty, right? To actually deal with the tough stuff. But ultimately, what I want to convey this evening is that these 3 avenues, character, healing, and leadership, are not distinct paths, but rather that they should be seamlessly integrated. And these avenues walk hand in hand with one another. And it's much like a transformation process of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly when these are integrated into one's life. I found this true in my own life in my 20s after I went through intensive counseling for a couple of years. And I came face to face with my own brokenness as well as that of others. And I experienced this particularly after having experienced the failure of leadership in various areas of my life. So at that point is when I realized how crucial the art of leadership is, especially during a time in history in which we face a crisis of leadership. And so as women here tonight, I think it's very important because women are being called in all types of ways that we didn't have the opportunity to be 50 years ago, 20 years ago. And so I think this is particularly important for this time. And we each have a unique calling to fulfill this. I'm sure that each of you can recall a moment in your lives when you were let down by someone that you really admired and from whom you expected more. And these experiences can be really painful and difficult. And they're not infrequent, I think, as many of us can attest to. But this is why it's even more crucial to learn how to overcome character traits that may impact our leadership habits negatively, and why it's also necessary that leaders should have strong moral character. So we arrive at the question, what does it look like to form one's character? I think first, it entails seeking opportunities for personal growth and development. And I think the key word here is seeking. If you don't put in the effort, it's hard to grow, right? When you seek these opportunities, it enhances your self-knowledge, and self-knowledge lies at the foundation of personal growth. This pursuit of self-knowledge begins with learning your own strengths and weaknesses. And once you can do that, you can begin recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of others, which helps you to lead them more effectively. And once you know your opportunity areas, you can begin to cultivate good habits that will spark change. Each of us is meant to amplify our gifts and serve others by harnessing our unique strengths. And so this pursuit of self-knowledge will help you to capitalize on your gifts and the gifts of others. And so when you are aware of your opportunity areas, it pushes you to grow and to confront what may be holding you back. And when you confront the difficult areas of your life, this is where healing occurs. Dealing with the tough stuff equips you to better serve others, and it frees you from the muck that you may have been wading through at various points in your life. And this pursuit of interior healing is very much a part of developing a strong moral character. It helps you to lead others effectively because it levels the playing field. It communicates to others, I'm growing with you, as opposed to I'm watching you grow. And having that mentality is very important, as I'm sure you've experienced, whether that's in your workplace, in personal pursuits and friendship, in networking, what have you. We're all wounded individuals in need of healing. And to fail to recognize this aspect is a failure of leadership. And that's the point that I want to drive home, is that healing is essential to being an effective leader. Alexander Havard from The Virtuous Leadership defines leadership as achieving greatness by bringing out the greatness in others. And I find this so powerful because this indicates that leadership isn't about us, but it's about everyone surrounding you. And what you pursue for yourself has a direct impact on every person you interact with. And so I really believe that you can find your greatness by investing in your character and in your own healing process. So I just want to end with a few practical tips of ways to pursue this. So number one would be to invest in yourself and in your journey. And don't be afraid to seek opportunities for personal growth. This could take a variety of approaches, right? But a couple recommendations would be to familiarize yourself with your temperament, utilize a strength finder test, invest in a few good books. One I would recommend is From Temperament to Character by Alexander Havard. Number two, recognize the need for accountability. Who in your life can speak truth into you when you're struggling, when you make a mistake, when you need it the most? A failure of leadership is failing to be held accountable for your actions. So I think that's a crucial point to drive home. And lastly, the willingness to be vulnerable as a leader is fundamental to helping others grow. Sharing your own experience and setbacks creates the mentality that we're in this together. The more you utilize your own story, the more you will propel and encourage others to explore their own. And I'll just end with a quote from St. Teresa of Avila that always leaves me feeling inspired. And she was one of the most striking examples of female leadership in her time. And she says, "To have courage for whatever comes in life, everything lies in that." Thank you for being here this evening.
There's a moment in which you want to just say, drop the mic. After listening to these four ladies, there's no way in the world anything that I have to say is going to top what you've already heard. But I'll at least talk to you a little bit about who I am and what I'm learning and becoming, because I like leadership. In fact, I love it. It's a passion. I love mothering. I don't have 7, but mother of 3, grandmother of 3. Talk about making me smile. I need you in my apartment. And education is key to everything. And so with that, what I've learned and where I stand on this one thing is a lesson that I learned from my middle child, my oldest daughter. You see, I believed that being a woman leader meant that I would come in the house and I would do everything and I would come in with my briefcase. When my youngest was 2 years old, she kept telling me, "Mommy, I want a pocketbook." And I didn't know what she was talking about. So, I go and get her a little Barbie purse. No, I want a pocketbook. So I'm thinking, oh, well, you're only 2. You don't get a Coach bag, As it turned out, I used to come in the door and I would set my briefcase in the hallway, in the foyer. That's what she was talking about. That was her pocketbook. She saw that and identified that with me, all right? And so I had to learn, okay, let me not do the power thing so much and make sure I do the mommy thing and balance. The story of the middle child and her, 2 girls, is I would also walk in the door. Now I'm tired, it's been a long day. And I'd have to be a conversation cop. You know what that feels like, right, Maruška? One would start, and then the other one would start, and I'd have to say, "Stop, okay, you go, all right, you stop, and then you go, and then you, okay, all right, and how about," and some way, shape, or form, the dog got fed and the food got on the table. But that was life for a long time. And then as life goes on, and that was talked about, we find things happen. And when my dad passed away, which was a very hard time for me, I swept my girls up and we went to the beach for a week. I needed it. So did they. So they got the exercise out and I got the quiet. So I told you they were conversation cops. Those 2 girls would go. The son was quiet, but the girls would just go back and forth. And my middle daughter was the creative one. And she had a very pragmatic, scientific mother. What does that mean for the 2 of us? Not good. As it turned out, when she would tell me things, it didn't make sense. But when we were at that beach, one morning I got up, 5:30 in the morning, just couldn't sleep. And I found her outside. And so I sat with her. And that was where I learned the gift. And I've used it every day in leadership, in life, in mentoring, anything. And I sat and I listened to her for hours about her dreams, about her creativity, about the paintings she wanted to draw. Don't forget, she's got a pragmatic mouth. And I never opened my mouth to say, you know, where's the practical thing in that? I said, that sounds like joy. And that was where I learned. It's not identifying with who I am, it's identifying with who she is and they are. And then we would go and she would make these designs. I won't tell you about the things she made out of duct tape, but we were in the market and she had a purse that she had made out of ties we had gotten from a thrift store. And I'm thinking to myself, well, do I want to be identified with her in this bag? And a woman came up behind her and said, that is the most creative bag I have ever seen in my life. And I listened as she talked with her joy about how she had invented it, how she had thought about it, how she had done it. And again, it kept teaching me over and over again. That's what leadership in life is. It's listening to the others. And so that's been the gift that I've been given. Thank goodness I'm a high introvert. I don't need to talk much. But from my son to my son's friends, he walks the dog nightly, I get a phone call. To all of those, it's the listening. And as the power of that, I found God in every conversation. I find God and I listen to how God is developing in them, all of them. Now, you didn't hear me talk anymore about the youngest child. I don't have enough time. But it is still what I find when I am mentoring people who are so much younger than I am. And they come to me and they say, I want to talk with you. I asked my daughter, the youngest one, why? Why is it that young people want to come and talk to me? And she says, Ma, I don't understand, which I don't get. But it's how life is. And I've come to realize it's the Lord expression. It's the spirit expression. It's the soul expression. And I allow that vessel to happen and to continue to happen. So if I had any leadership skill, and I love leadership, you know, I love to come in the door and yeah, I still got a briefcase. I don't put it down on the floor anymore. Now it sits on its own little table. But I listen and I engage actively every single day. How much time did I give to that new employee? How much time did I give listening? How much time did I give to the person who cleans my office? In just being able to say hello, hola, and back and forth. My Spanish has increased and it's been wonderful. But it's that recognition of who they are and who the God is in them that dwells in them, and also the God that dwells in me. So that's the power of that being active in our listening. It's a sacred skill. And my daughter taught it to me over and over and over again. And yes, they are both extroverts with an introverted mother. Thank you. And recognize the gift of us as women and women leaders and what we bring into the workplace, into our homes, into our schools that is so much different and yet so profound. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you to each of you. That was very inspiring. And now we turn to our Q&A portion. I want to remind our online listeners on Zoom to go ahead and use the Q&A feature to enter your questions, and we'll take those first. So the first question is for Barbara, and it is from Perpetua, who's watching on Zoom. What do you believe defines the role of a mentor?
That's a great question, and I think a number of things that were said by the women here on the panel will really sort of inspire this answer as well. First, if as a mentor, you need to understand that it is a gift, and you need to approach that role with great gratitude, to have the opportunity to work with a colleague, to work with a young person, whoever that might be, who's really in your care. And I will say in your care. I often have said in my opportunities to speak with especially principals around the country that the role of a leader is to nurture the next leaders. The role of a leader really is to be the caregiver, to listen, to find the best in that person, to speak truth, as you were saying. So sometimes things aren't going to work, or sometimes someone's going down a road that maybe needs a little twist and turn and a little nudge by you as the mentor. But being a mentor really is being willing to walk side by side with an individual, to be willing to share your own vulnerabilities with them, and to help them to understand that if they're worried about making a mistake, mistakes are part of life. And those mistakes that we probably can all remember, probably things that have helped us to grow the most. And I would have to say, yes, speaking truth, but I think every mentor should really be a cheerleader for their mentees. I've had the opportunity to mentor both young women and even some men. As a matter of fact, it marks my age to think that one of my elementary school teachers is applying for a principalship. I'm like, oh my goodness, time has flown for sure. But what a gift that he would want me to talk him through that process. And I really see it as somewhere along the line, or somewhere along the way, I should say. I sent a message, and maybe that wasn't listening, or maybe it was in something that I said to them, that I care about you a lot, and I see great things in you, and if I can help bring those great things to fruition, then I'm blessed and honored to be able to do so.
Our next question is for Krista. It is from Julia, and she says, what are some of the ways that you imagine women leading in the church and society in the future?
This is a great question. Thank you, Julia. I actually am a big proponent that I think the time for the laity to rise is now. And so I really do think it is about discovering your unique gifts that God is calling you to serve the church in the world and to bring about leaders, right? So as you can see, we have a diverse panel with all of us with different skill sets, right? And working in different positions, and we're serving, right? And we're serving God, the church, our brothers and sisters, all in different ways. And so I would iterate that I think it does begin with this self-exploration of what are my unique gifts and talents, and taking the time to really discern your calling of what direction am I going to go and what is God asking me to do. And I think that discernment process is key, and everyone's is different. So whether it's 3 months or 2 years, it doesn't matter, but taking steps in the right direction. So yeah, kind of in a nutshell, that's what I'd say.
This next question is for Lourdes, and it is from Terry. She asks, what should be in the closet of every woman over 60 who mentor younger women?
Why it's not coming on?
What should be in everybody's closet? Pieces that you love, and pieces that that bring sort of like I think you were saying that, Krista, your inner beauty that you have inside, outside. And I think that's a very, you have to have sort of like that, the way that you present, sort of like the dignity that you have inside has to be outside, obviously colors, that's why I'm wearing colors. Colors is attractive, and especially if you're working with young girls and young women, they, unfortunately, I mean, I guess we're very human, and we live in a very, I mean, we judge books by the cover, and so if you represent your personal brand in sort of like dull and unattractive manner, then, except if you're wearing a habit, by the way, I think you guys are so fashionable.
It's
So,
white then.
Yes, it is white.
It's a 12th century Paris original.
Okay. So it's just by representing your personal brand, and sort of like, if you're selling God, you have to look your best and your finest, and be very, very proud of it, and smell. I smell somebody super nice in the audience, or like smell attractive and smile so much. You have to have that smell of Christ, that spirit, that happiness. You really have to smile until it hurts to be attractive. That's the best piece in your closet, by the way.
This next question is for Maruška. It is from Julia. When did you realize the beauty and importance of remaining dedicated to the home life?
Good question. I don't know if in the past tense, when did you know? It's something that I do realize every day. In fact, something that is kind of a reminder every day, every morning. And when I do tend to forget, my children remind me, definitely. But it's something that you have to kind of relive every day, I think. I love the Jewish people. The Jewish people have a great sense of being reminded. They take it very seriously. It's in the scripture, over and over again, how they drill it into their children. They say prayers over and over that they're reminded, they don't forget. And I think it's important to do with the vocation to married life as well. Just to realize every day what a gift it is, and what a beautiful call. And again, if I forget, my children definitely do remind me. So I would say it's something that I did realize, I guess partially when I got married, but with each child, it grows a little bit deeper. And as I get older, it grows deeper. So it's something that's a continual process, I guess, and continual recognition and grace. So I think it doesn't end.
This question is asked to Krista. Brenda asks, how would you suggest we help someone, a friend or a stranger, flourish if they're resisting change or are filled with different fears?
Yeah, great question. Human flourishing. It's the key to life, right? We're all on that same journey. Yeah, I think that to address that, it's really important to recognize that you can't make somebody change, right? The beauty in friendship is walking alongside someone, and they have to come to a place where they're ready to accept and move forward in their life. So it's accepting them for where they are and who they are. And even if they're making perhaps destructive choices, and you can see that they're visibly struggling, what they need is love. And so I think the question to ask yourself is, how can I love them, right? How can I love them more or better? Not how can I change them, right? But maybe all they need is a word of encouragement from you. Maybe all they need is, hey, have you ever thought about having a mentor? I really think that a lot of accompanying others is about planting seeds. And so if you plant the seeds, it's not always up to you to water it. That job can be for somebody else. But it's what are the seeds that you're planting in their life so that they can continue to be nurtured.
This next question is for Sandra. This is from Jennifer. Can you share a little bit about the discernment process that you use to determine God's will for your life so that you are not overextending yourself?
Thank you very much for that question. I really do appreciate it because discernment is such an essential part of my life. There is no action taken that has not been discerned, thought about, and it's so part of my prayer life. So for me personally, and I can only speak for my own personal process, it is reflection internally, in quiet, on my meditation mat. So yes, everybody, I sit cross-legged, and I sit there and I meditate. I don't do Om, but I do. That's how I get myself centered and disciplined into that process of discernment. And the discernment will take place as long as it needs to. I've learned in that process of discernment to listen not to my mind, but to my soul. And I've been able to learn how to differentiate between the two, because my mind oftentimes tells me what I want to hear. My soul oftentimes tells me what I know I need to hear. And I talk to God sometimes like this. Here's my hand. I don't want to hear it. And then my soul says, put the hand down. You gotta hear it. So the process is that there is a daily ritual of meditation, prayer and meditation. And then I come out of that discernment and I find my trusted friend to talk to. And that confidence can be over dinner, can be over a bottle of wine. No, not driving, but over a bottle of wine. It's a conversation. And I did this with the person that I adopted at 45 as my mother, on a very big project and endeavor. And she listened, gift, right? She listened to me for hours as I put it all in place. And this is what she said at the very end. I've never known you to do anything bad. That was it. So my discernment was confirmed and then move forward. So that's my process. For some people, it's on their knees. For some people, it's with a rosary. For some people, it's doing a litany. It can be anything, but that is my personal one. Cross-legged on my meditation mat, eyes closed, and listening. Thanks. Thanks for the question.
This next one is from Barbara. It is from Kiara, and she asks, in our society, there is so much pressure for women on prestige, being busy, doing everything, working, rather than living a peaceful life or not being busy all the time. How can we take time for praying and for listening to other people and not become slaves of being busy?
I don't know if this question is asked to the right person, because this is certainly something that I have not perfected, because I am usually very busy. But one of the things that I have found for me in my life is that I wake up earlier than anyone in my family, even when all my children were there, and certainly with my husband. And I find myself the minute that I awaken, that I am immediately talking to God. So somewhere along the way, my soul is at rest, and I have an openness when I awaken that maybe I don't have during my busy day. So that certainly is a gift. But in life in general, I think sometimes it's just a matter of being very intentional about making the commitment and saying, I'm going to take this time with my friends, or sometimes even when you have an opportunity to be with a friend and you're thinking about the next thing you need to do, or a colleague, someone comes into your office, trying to be intentional and saying, like, stop, listen, wait, because really the next thing that you have to do is not more important than what you're doing in the present moment. And so trying to live in that present moment. And so as I said, as I hear myself speaking, I'm like, yes, Barbara, you need to do more of that and not run to the next thing. But as I said, that your prayer life is so important. And for me, prayer life is probably not like, any of us on the panel. We probably have it very differently. But My time in my car without wine is when I talk to the Lord, because it's just me, right? And so I definitely always have Christian music on, and you know how that contemporary Christian music is. It's like, oh, that person knows me who's singing. That song is just for me. And so it gives me an opportunity really to reflect and to evaluate what's going on in my own life, what's in my heart during that time. So whatever works for you, if your life is busy, use that time. It doesn't have to be what you traditionally think as time for meditation or peaceful time. It's what works in your life.
This next question is for Lourdes. It is from Margaret. Do you have any advice for how to build harmony between personal career goals and discerning marriage? Could you speak especially to the two extremes of 1, becoming obsessed with trying to get married, and 2, using goals in order to ignore an unfulfilled desire for marriage?
The perfect balance that we just can't ever get. I would say that I was actually very desperate to get married. I guess my parents got divorced when I was 5, so I had dreams and whatnot, but I was very desperate because I had seen my vocation clearly. But again, I would have to say that obviously, as in everything, you can't get desperate and you can't think about it because it's not good for your mental health. So, but just to pray about it. And I would say like make opportunities and try to find like good environments and meet people, you know, be with people good people who, I mean, go to volunteer at place. I mean, just, you have to kind of find yourself giving yourselves the opportunity to have that prepared environment to like, hopefully, I mean, sometimes it happens at the bar, but not all the time. So I would say that. And then in terms of the balance of a family and life, I would say that what I've clearly seen, so I don't feel that I'm that old. I kind of feel that I'm a 23-year-old. My husband's like, you're not 23, but I'm like, I feel 23. So it's just thinking that maybe I wasn't super professional and super successful, and maybe I could have been in the corporate world and balanced both family life, but maybe thank God, God made me be in that bed for certain, because if not, I wouldn't have stopped. So that was sort of like my giving up, and I needed something extraordinary to like keep me put. But today I'm feeling very much still with some children at home, but I feel that I still could kind of feel fulfilled professionally. Maybe it didn't happen when I wanted it, but I actually feel that I still have more years that I can do that. And I'm ready for grandkids because I'm very much into marrying young again. But it says never just think outside the box and never sell yourself short to what you had, again, because your driver has happiness. And maybe being super professional was not what would have not given me the happiness that being at home gave me.
This next one is for Sandra. This is from Rachel. In balancing family and work, do you have tips for getting in the mindset of coming home from work and switching from work life to home life and being present?
What a great question. Yes, I do. I literally find myself planning the evening as I'm coming home, making sure that when I walk in the door, and this is when the kids were there, everybody's grown now. I didn't mean to laugh. But when the kids were there, coming in the door prepared, ready to hear, to engage, to understand exactly what it was that their days encompassed, because I knew mine, but I didn't know theirs, and what challenges had they encountered, and and listening to those one by one, conversation come, but making sure that preparation time of the commute home was going to make sure that I got it, and not having a phone conversation in the car. Having that, you know how you do sometimes from work, okay? No conversation. Maybe I chat with my sister, but When I get into the door, that's it. I'm ready. I was ready to be mom and ready to embrace. I used to call them fleas as I walked in the door, because if you've ever encountered that, as soon as you walk, the door opens and bam, there they are. But it was, I was ready. And that was the only way, making sure that the time in the commute home was that for them.
This is our final question from our online listeners, and it is for Maruška from Julie. How can we, as the church, through involvement with giving, in general, as faithful Catholic women ourselves, help young women today to prepare for the vocation of marriage and motherhood?
That's an important question. I think there's a lost art that women from the past had, and we don't have so much anymore. It's the art of presence. Home is actually the best place to learn this art, how to be really present to another being, to another person. And I think partly because of technology and the modern culture and social media and everything, young women are not able and ready to be really present, which is what is required for marriage. And so I would suggest even kind of going back to basics and kind of the wholesome life that does not require technology is actually probably one of the greatest things we could do to prepare young women. That they actually learn just the basic art of being with another being, another person. Even just learning practical things, which again in past mothers would teach their children at home, their daughters, how to cook, how to sew, how to clean the house. All of these things are forgotten too. They are forgotten arts, lost arts. So just teaching maybe these things to young women before they get married would be very helpful, so that they don't feel so lost when they actually marry and there's no time to learn when they're children. But I think there's also a lot of fear among young women, just fear of loneliness perhaps, or that this vocation is just too hard. How can I do it? How can I manage alone? Well, nobody can. I think none of us can. It's a great gift. It's a grace from God. But then also another thing that is lost, I think, is kind of that sense of community. There's an old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it's true. We all have to help each other, and look at all the old books like Laura Ingalls. They would build a barn together. Mother would have a child, they would make a meal. There was a sense of helping. Grandparents living with you in the home and helping with the baby, or just a communal sense of to raise a family. It's not your work alone. You have other people to help you. And that's something we have to recover as a culture, I think, to bring it back, to have this communal sense. And also need for friendships. Young women, mothers, we all need friends. I think we all need people that we can walk with, exactly where we are, people who are kind of in the same boat. We also need people to learn from, older mothers with more children, with more experience, but then also somebody that we can help too, that we can serve. And having these three kind of levels of friendship, I think that helps a lot to just to prepare women for marriage. And then of course, being rooted in the sacraments, being rooted in God, having a strong prayer life, really depending on God. And things just happen in time. They don't get given at once. And I think that's again something that we expect. So you don't learn motherhood or how to be a good wife and a good, mother right away. It takes time and it unfolds throughout your life. It requires patience, which again our world does not teach us anymore. So just waiting, I guess, in silence, listening. I guess those would be the tips for young women for mothers who already have a home, to make sure they pass it on to their daughters, and that we actually open our homes to other people. That's why I love opening our home to young women, that they can come and be with a family, that they can see this life being lived, and they can be part of it. So encouragement for all mothers to open their home, and for young women who are single, hoping to get married, not to be afraid to seek families.
get into their home, just be with them, spend time with them, that's the best preparation.
I want to thank each of you. We started this evening with that little quote from Edith Stein on how she said, "A glance at Mary refocuses, recenters, bring us back." And you each let us have a glance into your life and see things on those days that are hard, right? Where it's a little harder to put our head on a pillow calmly. It's a little harder to get up. I think our mother, if we could but see her, and we are with her, but we know if we could just see her, she would steady us. And you each in your different ways offered a bit of that to us this evening. So thank you very much for answering God's call in your life and being who He wants you to be for Him, but for all of us. And so we say goodbye to our online viewers. I almost said learners. We don't have a teacher. Online learners, online viewers. And we will pick up with our friends here with us this evening. I have a question. All right. So as you look back on your life, what are the ideas of beauty that perhaps were limiting to you as a young woman? We want to be beautiful. We are beautiful. We're meant to be beautiful. And how has your view of beauty expanded or changed over time into maybe a more free or liberated view of what beauty is?
That's a good question. Anybody? Okay. I love this question on beauty. I think for me, the concept of beauty has expanded, particularly in my adult life, through further intellectual and spiritual formation and understanding that beauty itself is rooted in truth and goodness. And so anytime you encounter a moment of beauty, it directs you towards something good, right? The object itself is good and points towards objective truth. And I actually think, beauty is a way to transform hearts and minds, right? So when you're looking at a beautiful piece of artwork or listening to a beautiful piece of music that captivates your soul, right? Or you see it in somebody else and it ignites this light in them. And so I guess for me, discovering beauty through the ordinary is something that I really enjoy, like through the little things. I recently bought an air fryer and I absolutely consider it a moment of beauty because it's like this ridiculous adventure, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like I am like discovering how to make something new and beautiful. And like the Lord is teaching me this because I failed, right? Like I failed my first attempt. But silly things like that, or even, like I am a lover of arts and music and literary works and things like that. So it's really discovering also like what captivates your soul and invites it towards beauty.
Okay, that was very nice. I think I'm very guilty of expecting beauty to be like things that like creative that I like a nice wardrobe or just to be very human about it. And I feel that my concept of beauty, like saying that I'm very vain and I'm very into attractive into what I see, not necessarily, like judging, right? Judging just because of what they're wearing or whatnot. So I feel that my concept of beauty has gone beyond and grown to see beauty in everything, like not necessarily in the things that are like beautiful, like necessarily a nice put together wardrobe or a nice room done, like changing a diaper was beautiful. Maybe that's a different form of art that my son created, after a young meal that I prepared, So it's just like, again, like seeing that beauty in ordinary things and just having sort of like a different mindset that we can find beauty in everything, sort of like that we see, that love and that changing mind.
Yeah, I think also children just add a new perspective to beauty and what's beautiful. And it just teach you daily to really notice the ordinary and the little things. So I feel like beauty and wonder are kind of connected to, you just wonder about everything. It's beautiful. Look at this leaf, look at this little ladybug. So it just makes your eyes more open, your heart more open. And what is beautiful to children
it's sometimes surprising, they can meet a new person, some old grandmother who just comes in and says, "Oh, such a beautiful man." And you just realize they are looking very at the heart, they are looking at the right thing. So I would say my sense of beauty changed with my children, and it makes me more aware of what truly is kind of the depth of things. Maruška, yes. Yeah, just to kind of a comical thing, I do know about the movie The Hidden Life, but because I'm a mother, the way we watch movies, you watch 10 minutes one day, 10 minutes, because the children keep waking up and you just can't finish. So I started The Hidden Life, but I'm about halfway through. But yeah, actually, I have been thinking about this image of the hidden life when I was preparing the presentation, because life of a mother is hidden in many ways, but there's then this communal aspect, right, for the world. So it's a beautiful, beautiful image. So was your question about how we live then kind of the liturgical life in our home, or more like how to prepare for it? Preparation. Yeah, yeah. Well, again, it's a process. You keep learning throughout your life, and through your children actually a lot. But yeah, I would say the sooner you start preparing, the better, right? So now I'm looking back thinking, oh, I wish I knew these things when I was younger. Like, I wish I had a better sense of certain things because it would be so hard now. So when young women come and ask me, like, how do I prepare? What do I do now? I would say making sure that you have a very strong prayer life is very important. Because if you are rooted in prayer already as a single person, then you will bring it into your marriage and will just get stronger. And there are stages in life, there are stages in motherhood, stages in family life. So it will change over time a little bit. It will depend how young your children are, how many you have. But if there's a strong already rootedness in prayer, I think it's very important. And then I just love wholesome and real things, like have a meal together every day, go for walks, read books together out loud. And you can do these things when you're single, when you're engaged, when you're preparing for marriage. If you do them with your spouse or your fiance, or you're preparing for this home culture that is just so important to create in the world today. And I honestly believe that many young people who are struggling with like depression or different things, I think they just want home. They just want this place of warmth and belonging. And so you can prepare for it when you are young, just by all these little steps you take towards real life. Forget technology, just be real. Just make meals, go and talk with friends, go for walks, just look at the stars. Again, all these little things that children remind us of because that's what they live for. Yeah, so living them on your own as a single person then will make it a stronger beginning for your marriage, and then it will just get deepened. Does that answer a little bit? Okay.
I would say buy neutral pieces. Buy neutral pieces that you will not get bored with and that you can accessorize with like color. And then just with like in clothing, I feel that you have to know where your investment is most in need. Like Well, like if you need like a good sofa because that's where you're gonna come in, like maybe that's gonna be where you're gonna sort of like put a little bit more of your sort of like your money in, and then like go to IKEA and buy like different tables and here and there. Or also another thing is that start slow and don't get discouraged. Like finding good things like going to Home Goods or you change, but sometimes because sometimes the kids come and that's a priority and their tuition, then or you can homeschool them or do whatever. But just know that pieces that you have now are not forever. Like you change. But neutrals I think is the number one, especially when you have a small budget. Like get crazy with accessories and just so that you don't get drained. White maybe not that good when you're starting, but maybe.
There's one down there too, Sandra. We can tag team on this for sure. For sure. I think that it probably goes back for me, how would I best answer this? It goes back to maybe something that I was saying in the beginning. So I think what you were saying is humility is holding you back from stepping into a role. But if you're being called into that role, maybe it's really not humility, maybe it's a little fear about stepping in the role, maybe it's worrying that, will I be successful in that role? But if that role is presented to you, and you've discerned and you've prayed on it, and people have recognized things in you that have invited you into that role, I would say that maybe you should step through the door and see what awaits you. I mean, I truly do believe that when opportunities present themselves, if we listen, if we have an open heart, and if we have worked hard along the way, if we're really talking about a professional career, that we've given it our best. And I think sometimes we're invited to do things because not so much the skills that we have, but who we are and the relationships that we've made along the way and the difference that we've made along the way. Because so many things can literally be learned on the job, but those skills, those interpersonal skills and how you loved and cared for other people and looked out for other people, that's just who you are. So I don't know if that answers your question, but sometimes it's easier to say you're being humble, but really is a little bit of fear about, can I measure up? Am I the right person? But if somebody's inviting you, you are the right person.
So it's a good question. One has to really discern because ego plays into it a lot. Yeah, you're not in your head, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the fact that it feels good when somebody approaches us and says, "I think you ought to," and you go, "Okay." Am I being wrong? Am I being wrong? Right. But then that's where you step out and you do the assessment. Who you are, what your character traits are, what your skill sets are. And if you know the entire picture of what that potential could be, and you feel that after you've assessed and discerned and prayed, that you could overcome. So there, you know the obstacle. They're there too. If you really feel that you can get past all of that and still be you, the ego of being you that you've got to look at in the mirror every day and say, I'm satisfied with you. That's when you know it's real. And then you talk to someone. Remember what I told you? How I discerned and discerned and discerned, and then went and asked, gave them the whole picture. It was $2 more. We were not looking. But again, is this the ego? Because it was very nice to have been approached. But am I ready? I thought after I did all of the research and all of the assessment, that I needed to have somebody else listen and would trust me. And that's when I moved. Does that make sense?
Just one? Good.
That could be a whole nother session. She didn't ask me. She said anyone at the table really, but when one of the things that I would say is, I'll go to my own experience. When I was the superintendent of schools, except for one other woman who was a very quiet voice, a very quiet presence, I was part of the executive team, and which means that I entered meetings regularly with about 12 men around the table, myself and another woman who was quiet in our meetings. And really our goal in a man's world, if that's what our work situation is, many times in schools it's not, but in other roles it may be very much so, is that our role is not to come in and to sort of go toe-to-toe with the men and be like the men. It's to bring who we are to the table, to come prepared, to bring perspective that may not be there on the table, to share ideas when they are well-thought ideas and ideas that can stand up to a challenge because you may be challenged. And what I would say is anytime within that experience, when you come to a place and you realize that you are not being valued, then that may be the time for you to walk away. I have 500 girls in my school, and we recently had a conversation that was about when your gut is telling you, when that intuition is telling you it's not right, and you need to respond accordingly, not accept it, give them a pass, say it's okay because I am and they are, but to realize the power that you have, the voice that you have, and the ability that you have to either change something within that environment or to make a change for yourself. I hope that answers your question in some way, because it's a big question. As I said, it can be a whole session.
I have to say that being very, very vulnerable, which is very, very much important. Say that my husband was my boss, and that's a very competitive world in a marriage, right? Where he was the one who And again, he's an amazing man, and I was very happy to be married and be serving, but he was the one who was able to get out and like do different things, and I'm at home, you know, just, I want to get out too, but I physically, I'm breastfeeding or I can't. I say that was very challenging, was sort of like that, like not having that independence, but I was open and I was happy to have children. But I say that I go back to sort of like that, thinking outside the box. So my husband we were living in Lourdes in a very competitive institution, and he was doing his MBA, and hours for him were, you know, atrocious, and I had two small children, like a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I remember saying, okay, like, I want to learn something too. And so I found myself like walking into a Michael's art store and noticed that there was like a cake bakery class in the evening. And I said, I mean, it was once a week, an hour. And I started like saying, I'm going to do this because I also want to have a degree like at the same time. And so he graduated with honors from his MBA, and I had a cake decorating class. I mean, and it was because I knew that I would be open to life and having as many kids, and I knew that I would be baking many cakes for my kids, you know. So why not invest or like my ego or whatever that was into the cake bakery? And so I make beautiful cakes. Okay, so it's just like, you know, it's just like jumping on something that I wanted to respect my dignity, but you know, I needed to navigate a man's world and not like stay behind.
That's great. You were talking about or asking about what were some of the challenges, I guess, for us as women. I think one common challenge, and I kind of dealt with it for a while, when you become a wife and a mother, especially if there are many children, I have 7, there's this kind of fear or this notion somewhere like, your time is not your own. Like, when do I have time to like take a shower without anybody else in the room? No car seat with the baby right there. Like, you know, there's just these moments when you just can't do anything alone. So the time changes very much, it's kind of transformed, but it's actually better. And again, you realize that once you are going through it, that it's for your own growth, it's for the, you know, for a better world in a way. Like, you know, it sounds lofty, but it's true. But to kind of put a little bit more on you, it is interesting because then God also gives you all these graces and gifts and unexpected surprises you would never ask for, because you are giving your time constantly away to other people. So then He allows you to enter into things that you didn't dream of. So when I had my 6th child, I suddenly took cello lessons. You know, it's like, wow, you know, so when the baby was sleeping, my husband just got me a cello and said, go and learn how to play the cello. And it was beautiful. So, I mean, I couldn't play very well, but I learned some basic things and it was beautiful. I just, you know, never played a cello before. Or just, you know, thinking about, you know, I love to read. And when you have children, it's a busy time. I mean, when do I read? Well, when you nurse a baby, you read a lot. So I nursed 7 babies, and as they nurse almost every hour of their day, you just hold them and you read with the other hand, you know. So I read so many books in my married life that I didn't read when I was single. So like, you realize that all these gifts that God gives you for the time you are giving to other people, He actually like transforms that time and changes it a little bit. And you are suddenly given opportunities to take a class in cake baking, or take a cello lesson, or read a book, or, you know, it's transformed, but it's better. But that was kind of my challenge for a while, like, you know, when do I have time for me? You know, well, I do actually much more, but through serving the other people. So just a little bit different, it takes a different form.
This is a 2-part question to me, but both parts have the same answer. Simply put, I would say, let your passion convict you. And if you happen to be the minority in a situation, I've always found that if you speak with passion and from your heart, that's always the most convicting. And for me, I think one of the most challenging things has been vocational discernment in terms of in the workplace for me. I felt like in my 20s, I looked around and everyone had already figured out what it was they wanted to do and where they were going. And I was like, I still don't have a darn clue, and getting really frustrated. And I tried so many things in the book of like, I tried that thing, I tried this thing, and nothing was it, right? but I continued to listen to follow my passions. And one thing I knew for myself was I can't do work that I'm not passionate about. And passion comes from the heart, and the heart is the place where God speaks. And the older I get, the more convicted I become of that alone. And so I have really tried to remain true to I will follow my passions because I believe that is where God speaks and he fills you in those avenues. And so, yeah, I think that applies to a multiplicity of situations and dynamics of your question. But yeah, I think passion is the most convicting.
Strategic plan. And I was incredibly strategic about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to get there. And so, what a SWOT analysis is, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So took the weakness is my inability to be able to stand in the front of the room, regardless of whether it was a man, woman, didn't matter, and turn that into strength. 30 years in Toastmasters. Did it. And I took that weakness, turned it into a strength, turned it into an opportunity. I can become a player if I need to be, but that's not my goal. And then after realizing all that, because I'm learning how to speak publicly very well. I wanted to be the person that would get off of the plane and the chauffeur would be there, and I'd be this big time speaker. You know what I mean? Maybe hire me to travel all over the world. And I told you this gesture, God said, I got something else. And so it became ministry. And that was how it's worked. So took that strategic plan that I thought I created, did not know, and it worked. And it has taken me a career trajectory that has been unlike anything else.
Thank you, Rachel.
So if you don't know, Given was founded by consecrated women about 6 years ago. So as a consecrated woman sister, how would you define Catholic spirituality?
I'm glad the camera's not on. Well, not to be like the Debbie Downer here, but who does not serve? Who does not serve, right? We know what happened. And who does God use to bring us back into right ordering and freedom? Our Blessed Mother. And how does she look when compared to all of us? I think she encompasses all of us, right? But then in time lived out in a certain culture, in a certain place, in a certain way. I think we allow Mary to change our heart, to take the I will not serve, which I say daily in many different ways, right? I want to serve this way. This is what service looks like, right? This is what leadership looks like. And then, the person is challenging for you, or your student looks at you with that face that says you must be a really bad teacher, right? Or you were called to a deep life of prayer, and I just spent 20 minutes, planning my lesson in the chapel, right? I think we identify that I will not serve is not the voice we really want.